We're going to talk about how rigged the corporate world can be for a lot of men who are struggling in this society, and how many men just don't care. They see the economy collapsing and they've just given up on it, right? Let's learn more from this guy, Gerber. He has 2 successful channels, over 100,000 followers on each. Let's listen to his view here.
No, the slot market, it's down. 3 trillion liquidated from it today. Oh my God, what am I going to do?
I love it. Nothing could make me happier. No one can give an answer why young people, why Generation Z should care about a stock market crash at all. If you're young and you care, you're a moron. You're being gaslit by boomers. At a certain point, you have to realize the growth of the stock market, the performance of index funds, has very little to do with the prosperance of the people, especially young people. I couldn't care less that the stock market is falling. In fact, I'm happy. When I see red on the S&P, I jump in the air and shout for glee. Retail owns a very small minority of any publicly traded company. The rest are asset managers, banks, and other massive corporations. It's a corporate oligarchy. It's a separate financial class. Young people can't afford to save for an emergency, let alone invest. You say, well, I have a 401k. I occasionally put in a Roth IRA, something like this. Doesn't matter, because you won't withdraw that for another 30 plus years anyway. So that shouldn't matter to you. If you're taking spot positions or you're trading, you're calling the market, that's your fault. You need to take responsibility for that. Here's who it matters for: the financial class themselves and boomers. Don't care. Fuck them. We have continued to suffer for their indulgence. They can figure it out. They're well acquainted with working hard, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps, and going into a job, giving a firm handshake. So that's who it matters for. If you're young and you care, you think, oh no, red, bad, snap out of it. It's being implanted in your head. It doesn't. I don't know what else to say. If you think these things actually equate for real value for real people, we just view things fundamentally different. I see slop. I see a fake economy. I see artificially inflated assets. I am happy to see it burn. Generation Z has been boned from the beginning. There has been no real path to building wealth for young people. Now, I'm all about...
So before we continue, let's take some good takeaways from this, right? Firstly, the stock market crashing. This was a few months ago when he was talking about this. When was this? This is about 6 months ago. But the same thing applies really now in terms of whether the market goes up and down. It only matters if you are someone who has heavy investments in whatever the stock market would be or other assets. And then also, in terms of having no money left over to invest, this is the reality, which you see probably on the thumbnail for this video, is the reality for a lot of younger men, where they have some money invested in a 401k, in a cash ISA, stocks and shares ISA, whatever that would be. But they don't care about the financial markets, because why would they if they don't have a lot of money invested? They're not even making a lot of money in their job, right? And this reminds me of what Barack Obama, around the time Barack Obama was coming into leadership, there was always this discussion between the divide between Wall Street, Main Street. Like, what is the difference between all the people who have investments in the market and people who are working day-to-day jobs and don't have that much money to invest? And the whole point, it was Barack Obama, or Obama, whatever you want to call him, was going to help bridge this divide and help people in the middle class, which didn't really happen. He was just a puppet, like all politicians are a puppet. He was just there to give people the impression of progress, the same way you might have a female leader in the UK and it's the impression of progress, which we had with Liz Truss and Theresa May, but everything was perpetually getting worse. It was just a distraction from how bad things are getting. Now, the whole thing, he's got a good point here. Everything's fake, and I cover this on my channel often. If you're familiar with the term, everything's fake and gay, fake money, fake assets, fake company, fake work, fake relationships, fake politicians, fake jobs, everything's fake. Right? But at the end of the day, if you want to be able to outsmart this, you know how to play the game. And I knew how to play the game for over a decade, working in the finance industry at companies like Goldman and Morgan Stanley, and I help my clients over a 12-week program to get those high-paying jobs so they can use that money and invest and get in the game, so they can have more financial freedom for themselves and leverage their skills in a way that benefits them rather than just being a stooge, rather than being a wage debt slave. And the whole point here is over a 12-week program, I help you outsmart office politics, increase your salary, and take control of your career. There's a lot of Gen Z men who are checking out because the system's fake and it has all these fake things I mentioned, fake money, jobs, opportunities, and the hard work no longer pays. But I'm here to help you build leverage through turning your skills into real income streams. And I want to help you before the economy continues to get worse going into next year, particularly for the middle class. So link in description to speak with me directly. But let's go back to his views here.
Having a good attitude, taking responsibility, keeping yourself accountable, not making excuses. But there is a reality. And the reality has to be confronted and accepted. And this is it, is that we've been boned. Under endless inflation, which we have had, you cannot save money because it constantly loses value. So the game becomes to take the money and put it into assets while they are purchasable, while they are affordable, while they're at a good price as fast as possible, because they will, for the most part, endlessly appreciate under the endless inflation with some dips, but they will appreciate indefinitely. The problem is that Gen Z was locked out of this game from the start. Toddlers when '08 happened, just entering the workforce when 2020 happened. Unless you're like a zillennial, maybe that's a little different. There's no entry for us. We can't afford anything. The cost of living rapidly approaches the average income, especially after 2020. And we're just told to work harder by older people. They can lose all their money. I don't care. Why would I care? Oh no, the line went down. It doesn't mean anything. The economy is fake and slop. The jobs are fake. Surveys are done. Half of people can't even conceive what their job does, why it means anything. Oh, I'm a project manager. Okay, what do you do? Well, we create an interface in which the team work more efficiently towards bringing people together in a cohesive. It's like, I'll tell you what your job is. It's adult daycare. It's the fake job to bridge the fake money to the people so they don't crash out and just to keep it going, to keep the slop going. Some people might say this is just a loser, low IQ position. Oh, you're just a brokey, so you want to pull everyone down with you. Nah, not really. I'm actually a bright, handsome young man.
Before he continues with the glazing here, so the thing is, right, the most important here is to learn how to save and invest as quickly where possible. And I know it's difficult. I know many people are in difficult financial situations now, but the whole point is that it's like the quicker you get into the habit of saving and investing and accumulating assets, even if it is just some smaller investments in the stock market or other assets we cover, whether it's crypto, precious metals, things like that I mentioned on the channel in my career coaching too, it gives you an opportunity to kind of benefit when things are not going so well in the economy, but you might have a stable, decent paying job. So when you have dips in the market, you might know a term in the finance industry called BTD or BTFD. BTD stands for buy the dip, which means invest more when there's a dip in the price, or BTFD, which is buying the effing dip, which is just simply saying when prices go down for an asset you like to buy, invest more. If you invest in the S&P or whatever asset it would be, it'd be like, oh, there's a dip in it, I'm going to invest double this month compared to previous month. And then also what's happening is other generations or older generations, they're massively ahead of the younger generations. They already started investing, of course, in previous decades. So it's hard for you to catch up, but I still think you can make moves in the right direction from there, right? And the whole thing is, the whole term that you hear from boomers, just work harder, bro, right? It's just like saying just be yourself, bro. So when they tell you just to work harder and that will help you succeed, I think it's about working smart. And a lot of people don't realize that, whether it's having one of those fake corporate jobs where you're not doing much work but you're focusing on a side hustle while you're at work, those are the really kind of escape plans you need to focus on, right? Where you get a high paying income stream from your fake corporate job, you're investing it aggressively, you're spending some time at work focusing on your side hustle, you're building something on the side, and then you can escape when it works for you. You've got to play all these different strategies. It's not just simply getting a high paying job and then investing that, unless that is very high paying and stable for you. But it's about thinking and using all the strategies around you so you don't end up getting trapped like the system wants you to be trapped. Now, let's continue to listen to him here and then I'll react to the next comment.
I could probably best you at a competition of speed, mathematics, or fucking. A lot of times the fake jobs even make the most money. The connection to real value has been severed. Green charts does not mean your life is better. Does not mean civilization is better. It's slop. It means nothing. Young people are boned from the start. There's no way most people can afford a house. Even if they make 6 figures, you can't even buy a house with 6 figures. It used to be, oh, you're rich if you made 6 figures. Young people are living in their cars and shit. It used to be homeless people were all like drug addicts, schizophrenics. They had to have real problems. Now, if you're a young person, you just came across a little bit of misfortune, you don't have a great support system, like you can't live with your parents or mooch off some sort of relative, you're still working, you're a colossal fuck up, you're not doing heroin, you can't afford a place to live. That's how it works. Because it's bad. We did get there. Everything is so inflated. But economists say that's good. But no, the economists say that it's actually bad because when the market falls, the aggregate demand, the Keynesian economics, it requires constant inflation, the GDP grows. Shut the fuck up. Shove it up your ass. So the model of constant inflation that we've adopted for the last century, where now young people, it is a pipe dream for them to ever afford a house. Real estate is in the hands of massive corporate investors. That's good. No, that's good. High GDP. Good. With a Keynesian model, the Gerbian model indicates that I should roundhouse kick you in the fucking mouth. You're a moron. Economy is a fake science.
No, he's right that the economy is a fake science, right? I agree. I've worked for over a decade in the investment banking industry. Even when I was doing my economics degree, I realized a lot of it was fake. I remember the first time, like I'm literally an economist, right? And I can tell you the whole thing's kind of fake. And I remember my first time during Econ 101 at a major university, London School of Economics, which has a decent reputation as being a good university. The first week you learn about fractional reserve banking. Now, I already knew about fractional reserve banking through watching lots of conspiracy documentaries when I was a teenager or at college. And the whole idea is that banks can essentially print money out of thin air and then rent it out, loan it out, right? Giving loans. And it's basically the way the system works is just printing money out of thin air. And they have obviously regulations and banking licenses to do it, but the whole thing's fake, right? And then when I finished university, funnily enough, I started learning about Bitcoin. I started learning about Austrian economics and the whole concept of having money backed by assets, whether it's gold and things like that, in a lot more detail than they'd ever teach in university. And I remember going through my whole university degree and I thought they hardly ever mention Austrian economics, which is just a simple way of saying having currency backed by something real, which would be gold, money, silver coins, things like that actually have value rather than just paper notes, which is why we have the inflation we have now. It's just completely meaningless, backed by empty government promises. Now, the thing is, and earlier in the video, he was making fun of this meme. So I just want to show you this meme. He's talking about how the jobs are fake. And when you have fake jobs, just before I go through this clip I've mentioned on the channel before, this went viral many times, got millions of views. You got 2 women working relatively high paying corporate jobs, product manager, customer team management, something like that. The whole point is product managers, project like that, you'll see in a moment. The whole point is when you have a fake economy, you can afford to hire fake people who are going to do fake work. You've got these boomers or these girl bosses who are just in positions of management, not doing much work, but because the whole economy is fake, a lot of productive men can easily get pushed aside and replaced by these politically correct options for diversity or DEI hires or whatever that would be. They get preferential treatment, they get fake money, and often these are the type of people who benefit the elite because there's not a lot of work to do. These type of people will push all the agendas, right? The left-wing agendas, the woke agenda, the feminist agenda, the lower birth rate agenda, climate agenda, did I say that? Rainbow flag agenda, not having kids agenda, whatever you want to call it, whatever agenda they want to push, importing more migrants to take local jobs under the guise of diversity, all these type of things, right? This is what happens when you have a fake economy and fake money and fake jobs. You have people like this who are up all the benefits when they should technically be on the street and homeless. And you and I should be working those high paying 6-figure jobs. Right now, if you're watching my channel, you should be a C-suite level executive. But unfortunately, these people are blocking you.
You're saying I need to make like a tech TikTok? Because if you look at my TikTok, you'd never guess I have a job. So, anyways, this is our current workstation. Callie and I are what you call product managers. Callie, what is your team over?
My team is over reporting and internal tools.
And I am over what we call card experience. So we work on like anything from activating your credit card to freezing, reissue, shipping, all the good stuff. What's a PM?
We help prioritize and help the engineers stay on track and help them know what to build so that you have a product to use.
Exactly. So you might have a team like the engineers actually do the developing, the coding, which is the impressive part. Designers also do the impressive part, which is everything you see when you're in a software. Product managers essentially decide what the team's going to work on, do competitive research, prioritize bugs, keep everyone focused, motivated, and driving towards business outcomes. So that's what we do. And we work from home, which means you work from the internet.
So this is our office today.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope all you coworkers are happy. I'm branching out into the tech niche.
Now, it's crazy when you see this because she's branching out into the tech niche, but there's so many people who watch my channel, probably guys who are highly skilled in the tech field. And maybe they prefer to do coding, but they could definitely step into these type of roles like product management or project management because they have relevant similar skill sets compared to these type of people. So it's kind of funny. And yeah, it's just kind of funny that these people have jobs that you should probably be working, right? And then going back to this video, right? Like I say, so the thing is, he's talking about how 6-figure jobs aren't necessarily paying enough to buy a house. And that's true. And that's why it's going to come down to investing. It's going to come down to alternative lifestyle choices, whether it's being a minimalist. I've covered on my video other examples of guys who, and I'm not saying you have to do this, but a guy who retired at 39 in America, he worked a sales job. He was traveling in different locations and companies were helping fund his travel costs and his accommodation costs. So he was pocketing all the money, saving and investing it, and he bought and he renovated a property in the countryside, in the country area, like the rural areas of America, and he had one rental property too. So he had one Airbnb, which was bringing in some cash, and he was living in a low cost of living location too. So he lives for a relatively simple life, focused on his health, but he doesn't have a wife or kids. He's a bit concerned about the risk of divorce and the brainwashing that they give to kids in public schools. And he realized to enjoy his life, he realized he just wanted to retire early as a single guy. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that, get a high-paying corporate job and then be single for the rest of your life. But you're going to have to mix and match a few things, whether it's being a minimalist on an average salary or having a high-paying job and investing a lot, and then maybe deciding whether having kids is the right decision for you. You're going to have to mix and match. You can't just pick one thing. I'll just get the high paying job, right? And the other thing is, he mentions a lot of good points here when people can't compete with private equity for buying for house purchases. Now, I've covered in the video I made about Blackstone, this woman who passed away in the office there, who was leading this real estate department where Blackstone, BlackRock, they buy a lot of the local properties, retail properties, and that's why property prices are inflated. But you've got other people who have more money than you, maybe who might be buying properties. You've got foreign investors who are buying properties, private equity firms who are buying properties, like I mentioned, Blackstone, BlackRock. And then you've got migrants who are getting into your country at a very high rate. Higher population means less housing, means higher demand for housing, means higher prices. So that makes your life more difficult. Everything the system's doing, these governments are doing, are to make your life more difficult. Then we've got to go through, he mentions here, how high GDP doesn't mean a high quality of life. And that's the truth. They always say, oh, it's the economy, stupid. Or, if the green line goes up, if the GDP line goes up, your quality of life goes up. But clearly that hasn't been the case because money gets printed out of thin air by the governments. That creates inflation. Then you have all these other issues I just covered, which means that the benefits of the extra money doesn't go to you. The money's not getting directly sent to you. You're not working at a big bank getting a big bonus because they're investing more and have higher returns for their clients. You're someone who's sitting on the sidelines trying to invest or trying to get that type of opportunities. It can be quite difficult for you. And the thing is, what you have to realize now, in the past, and I know there's lots of theories around politics, I don't want to get into that now, but In the past, you could say there was a closer relationship between the government and the people, between the monarchy, if you had a king or a queen, and the people. So what benefited the king and the queen and the royal family, because they had the same family ruling over the same country over decades, would benefit the people who've been living in the country for decades and centuries. So you have a bit more consistency and a long-term goal-setting environment. Now, what is completely opposed? What benefits the establishment doesn't benefit you. That's when you see signs of social instability coming, more protests, more riots. So, for example, what benefits the establishment is limiting your free speech. What benefits the establishment is printing money out of thin air to inflate the price of property, stock market, because a lot of these people are already invested millions of dollars in the stock market. They're not feeling the impacts of a worst economy. They're not feeling the impact of the middle class disappearing because they've invested so much. When the price of everything goes up, the price of all their investments go up, right? And you're just haven't invested yet or haven't got into the property ladder. Then you've got instances whereby all this government coercion, control, surveillance, limiting not your free speech, your freedom of movement, your freedom of opinions, all these type of things benefit the current status quo, current group of people in control. But unless you see people rise up and have a great awakening, to put it nicely, in a peaceful way, you're just going to see things get worse and worse.
An economist said this. An economist, they're studying the economy, the charts, the graphs. They're super smart. Here's what I hear when you say an economist. Oh, so a retard said this. Oh, so there's this, hear me out. There's this charlatan retard who went and he got his degree in slop. He's got this opinion that contradicts everything you're seeing with your own two fucking eyes. You got to listen to this guy. You'll change my ears are just perked up ready to hear this economist. Now look, I'm trying to be entertaining. I'm trying to project out the Zoomer soul, the Zoomer perspective. The way I feel, I'm not that smart. Economics is a science of statistic contrivances to prove a result that was already decided upon. The Gerbian model suggests that I plant explosives in your house because when you get rid of the aggregate everything gets better. It's very simple. People will turn to alternate theories, different ways of looking at things, when what you told them works and is right very clearly doesn't work, and they're still suffering and struggling. Constant inflation has proven to Generation Z that it does not work. The rubber's starting to hit the road here with that whole idea. Young people can't save money. Even if they could, it would be inflated away. They have no path forward to own anything. They're in perpetual debt slavery. And the economists say it's good. Oh, ask an economist what they think about the Federal Reserve. Oh, it's here to help us to stabilize and direct our economy. Okay, sure, guy. That's reassuring. I'm very glad to hear that. Why are the things around me devoid of substantial value? I'm surrounded by microplastics and I have to work forever and still be in debt. That's weird. Oh, I'm sure glad they're stabilizing our economy. I'm over it. I'm happy to see it burn. It needs to all come down. We've been kicking this can down the road forever. People they walk around with this sense of normalcy like it's the 90s, and they'll just go to work, get a good job, buy a house, get a wife. The path is not there for Gen Z. You can't do it. It was stolen from you, and especially after 2020. Young people, some of them have this Stockholm syndrome. It's some real pathological shit where they defend the system that hates them and that is stabbing them in the back. Now, when it comes to Trump,
now, before we continue with the final clip, I just want to tell you how many of these experts, obviously they're paid off by the establishment. They're not paid to tell you the truth. And there's a term for these experts, IYI, intellectual yet idiot. Intellectual yet idiot. And what that means is that they're wrong so often because they're repeating the establishment agenda and the narrative to convince you something that's bad for you is actually good for you, right? That's why so many people came out of the university with degrees and now they can't find jobs. Or to give you another example, Donald Rumsfeld, who is a US politician, was heavily funded, allegedly, speculation, whatever you have to say, of course. He was funded by, there's a sugar lobby in the 80s, I believe, right? Where they were essentially wanting to put an artificial sweetener into Diet Coke, right? Called aspartame, right? ASPARTAME, right? It's an artificial sweetener. Even though they've proven this artificial sweetener was giving brain cancer to rats that they tested it on, they still wanted to put it into the Diet Coke, right? And now it is in Diet Coke, this artificial sweetener that's been proven to have negative health impacts, because they were essentially, the government was paid off to pretend that this bad thing for you is actually good for you. And I'm sure there's many other examples you can find there. Lots of people talk about how the coating on many items that you use for cooking, they have the plastic coating that's not good for you and things like that, where the non-stick coating on lots of pans are actually bad for your health. So it's worthwhile bearing in mind what's going on, what you're using, how many lies you're being told. For example, I use a steel kettle because I know plastic kettles do leach some microplastics. I have a water filter, things like that. And it's not perfect, but it's better than just trusting the system to look out for your health when you know the system's polluting the air, poisoning the water, doing all types of lies in the economy and things like that. So don't listen to the experts, think to yourself. And a key thing there, and I'm not saying I know everything here, but the whole point is, I always pay attention to experts who are on the outskirts of the establishment, or they've been kicked out the establishment for lack of a better term. And what I mean by that, they're experts who clearly know what they're saying, whether it's me or other people, but they're honest enough not to be part of the establishment because they know the establishment's lying to you. There's so many other examples I can give, but I'll just move on for now, right? So like he's saying, everything the system says is more lies, more problems, and no one really trusts the system because you're listening to lies and problems. You're listening to the system's lies, and it's creating more problems every day. How much longer can you go pretending the system's telling you the truth? The system is here not to help you, it's here to control you, right? And it's not here to tell you the truth, right? So what he's saying here is supporting accelerationism. And if you're not familiar with the term accelerationism, it's just like things are already getting quite bad. Let it all get bad very quickly, things collapse, and then we can build a new system. Now, I think that makes sense. It is a bit idealistic, but if you're living through the period where things are getting extremely bad, extremely high levels of unemployment, riots in the street, it might seem like, we're going to be on the other side and improve things, but that could go on for years or decades, right? Or at least like 5 years, I would say you could have a rough period. So I would prefer to build some stability so people don't have to live through that complete chaos scenario, but that's where it seems things could be heading.
Imagine that. Things are not better than ever. It's neo-serfdom. You could say these people live a standard of life below a medieval peasant. In 15th century England, workers worked 14 weeks out of the year. They owned their land completely. Now, they were paid pennies, but it was worth something. So they owned their homes, their land, and they worked less than half the year. And it's during the rest of the year where magnificent cathedrals were built around the country because this leisure allowed for real culture and real art to be produced, wonderful things to be made, because it is this free time that allows us to create. Financial strangulation of this kind is a step away from death. A step away from murder. You're not able to live your life. Is it dramatic? Maybe a little. But it's true. People wonder, the architecture doesn't look as good. The music, the movies, the culture is not as... Why do you think? Constant work forever till you die. Economy, the etymology of it, comes from Greek. It's oikos, house, and then management. So it means literally household management. And the connotation of household in this context, it implies household is a family. Man, wife, children. What I see is a lot of sterile people working fake jobs, not living in houses, but the Azure at Oak Point, their little slop apartments. So I don't see an economy. The literal sense of the word, I see no economy. Whatever. What do I know? I shouldn't be like a source of authority on these topics. Here's the point. Here's what I do know. As a young person, seeing things, experiencing, I have been given no reason to support the thing we have now. In fact, I've been given every reason to oppose it. So even if you think all the economic whatever points I threw out were completely stupid and wrong and ridiculous, this much you should understand. So anyways, thanks for listening to me rant. Gerby's got to just get it off.
So what he was describing there is how life of the peasants is so much better than, what is going on for most people these days. So let's look through this, right? He's saying, and this is the meme, there's a few memes here, right? So the first thing is the average peasant's working day was 150 days per year. They could work from home, they get lots of sunlight, spend time with their family and friends, no debt, lives in a gated communities. The average person these days, they work 250 days a year, commuting to work, don't get the sunlight, barely have time for friends and family, have a lot of debt, 100k student debt, and live in a concrete jungle. Then you've got another example here. This one went viral. I saw it over many years. Peasants work only 150 days a year. The church believed it's important to keep them happy with frequent and mandatory holidays. You have less holidays than a peasant. You only have like 2 weeks or 4 weeks holiday compared to 150 days. And then we got this comparing the Chad feudal peasant versus the virgin capitalist worker. You can see the bad posture of this capitalist worker. Doesn't know what he wants to do in life, has cheap clothing made in China, passive aggressive to other co-workers, and then he's always on the verge of being fired. He gets robbed walking home. He only has 8 vacation days. He doesn't have much strength. He is reusing his school trousers at his job. He's just basically feeling kind of meaningless in life. Doesn't have much time. If he's getting married, he's a gay wedding. And then uncomfortable shoes, that office shoes. Sometimes you have these specific office shoes that seem very uncomfortable. Compared to the peasant is essentially living his life on his own terms, wearing a nice hat. He is, he's not really dealing with a lot of the same issues, has a healthy relationship with others, 200 days of vacation, can walk around with his weapon. He can also, dress how he wants to dress, spends his time in his evening watching the stars, not just staring at Netflix, believes in religion, has strong religious convictions, wears whatever shoes he wants to wear, works at home and has his friends or his tribe, his legion of knights to protect him, listens to music in the evening, and just chills out, right? So it is obviously a bit of an exaggeration. I'm sure the life expectancy was a lot lower. There was probably a lot more violence in the past compared to current society. And I'm sure they had a lot of hard labor and people might have had health issues they couldn't resolve. So there is realities there that is a bit of an exaggeration, but this is true, right? When you have people who have ownership over their time, they have less work, they have ownership over their assets, they can have more time to create culture. And I realized that, like, as myself becoming a content creator, a lot of time to create the videos is, of course, researching videos, thinking of good talking points. But I do go on long walks, or spend a lot of time thinking about what I'm going to say and planning ahead. And that takes a lot of time. That's why balancing a side hustle with your main job is sometimes difficult, because you have to think these things through. Like, okay, well, how would I say certain things? How would I present certain things? And I'm not saying I'm creating culture in terms of art or architecture, but the same applies in that concept. If someone is creating art, music, architecture, anytime, any form of art, whatever you want to call it, even pottery, like home items, whatever that would be, interior decor, you need a space, a mental space to be able to come up with this. And the fact that everything's low quality is because people are just churning out trash time and time again, churning out pointless office work, churning out pointless pieces of media and things like that. And that's why people like Netflix might be struggling to get views, or any of these corporate entities, and then you've got people who just create their own content for low cost, and because they're genuine, because they're really original, they're getting millions of views, right? So now when people have no free time, they're stuck with this pointless low quality culture, and what ends up happening is it just becomes quite demotivating. And then when you compound that with the social dynamics being broken, what's motivating men when they don't have a family, they don't have strong social dynamics, they don't have even strong friendships in many cases, they end up living in small isolated apartments and only have a consumer culture. They're thinking about the next video game or the next piece of content, whatever that would be, which is typically, so much content these days is quite divisive between genders or races and things like that. So we went through what Gerbert has to say. We went through this woman with her fake job. We saw how peasants live a good life. And when it comes down to the end of the day, it's about resolving your situation and finding a better fix for you. So how can we do that, right? Firstly, you want to focus working with me for 12 weeks, getting started to help you outsmart office politics, increase your salary, and take control of your career, improving your situation so you can invest more, so you can set up your life and live it on your terms instead of being stuck in a situation where you're essentially being exploited while other people like the older generations, the baby boomers, the girl bosses of the world are living a good life while you seem to be struggling in your small apartment, right? So link in description to work with me. Let me know in the comments what you feel about this video. 2 recommended videos on the screen right now, and I'll see you next time.